Well, after UFC 263, a surprising back and forth between welterweight champ Kamaru Usman and Nate Diaz occurred over Twitter, with Nate essentially, saying who this guy fighting next with a picture of Kamaru Usman, someone he already KO'd. Usman replying, "I see you 209. If you really want this 187, then call your boy Hunter," alluding to, I believe, the UFC's attorney Hunter, who sets up contracts and emails them back. Everybody knows him. So this back and forth continues on for a bit, and it seems like they're trying to set up Diaz versus Kamaru Usman, despite the fact that Leon Edwards did definitively beat Nate Diaz just a weekend ago or so, 2 weekends ago. Boys, I know how you guys feel about Nate Diaz and how you feel about Kamaru Usman, so this is going to be really fun. And I'll start with you. What do you think about all this? Do you think that we could get a Jose Aldo situation here where maybe Nate Diaz gets the next crack at the 170 belt?
I would despise every bit of this sport if that happens. And the sad part is it possibly could, but I don't think that this is a real thing. I don't think that there's anything real behind this. Nate Diaz is become a lot like his longtime rival Conor McGregor, in the sense that a lot of tweets go out about things that ain't going to happen. A lot of hypothetical tweets go out, and MMA media jumps all over it. The Twitter sphere jumps all over it and turns it into something that doesn't really matter. Like, of course, Nate Diaz is going to angle for something that's advantageous for him. Kamaru Usman, with the money he's making as champion, be nice to keep that gravy train going. Can you think of an easier title defense for him than Nate Diaz? Sign me up if I'm Kamaru Usman, because you're talking about most likely the biggest pay-per-view draw for the absolute least amount of real cage work. That's just a no-brainer if you're Usman. At the same time, it's not going to happen. It's just not. As much as we've seen foolish things happen, this would officially just jump the shark. This would be another scale of intergalactic foolishness that I don't think we really need to introduce into the universe.
Yeah, I fully agree, Ant, and it's so funny because I think at this stage, at this point with Nate Diaz, everybody, including the fans, know exactly how this outcome goes, and it's just a funny thing. It's like a meme now to have Nate Diaz, getting to even be talking about these possibilities for him when his last win since 2016 was Anthony Pettis, who just lost to Clay Collard, this kind of thing. We know how the fight goes, right? If it was to happen, which it very well shouldn't, if you are a fan of Nate Diaz for his health's sake, because Kamaru Usman will do very, very bad things to that man. The thing that frustrates me the most is Kamaru Usman entertaining it, though. And I get the reason why he would, like you said, Ant, very good payday for least amount of resistance, all that kind of thing. But it just reinforces the silliness behind it when you're already getting the silliness of Nate almost knocked him out. He almost knocked out Leon Edwards. He's getting praised for almost doing an almost, and then the fact that Kamaru says, even responds to it, is like, all right, let's go, man, just kind of bolsters that. Point out, if you're going to respond at all, point out what we already saw, which was Nate lose for 24 minutes straight. It's just, it drives me absolutely insane as the purist that I am. And I don't think that we will see it. Aside from all this fun, silly banter that people enjoy, I don't think we'll see it specifically because of the fact that Dana is hell-bent on giving Colby the rematch. Plain and simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where when Leon versus Nate was announced, right? Obviously, there was a fair amount of disdain from a fair number of media members. Specifically a couple. Yeah, I was going to say specifically you, Drake. I was okay with it to an extent because Leon had that long layoff. he had been booked against Chimaev that kept falling through. At least Diaz was a name that you beat Diaz. Okay, then you can go ahead and parlay that into a title shot because it's a big enough name. You can do that. We've had that fight. And Leon, as you said, won that fight for 24 minutes. Yes, he got rocked at the end. It was a nice little twist to the end of that fight. It was exciting, but Leon still won the fight at the end of the day. So to have Nate, talk to Usman like this and have Usman entertain it, it makes sense on Usman's side, as Ant brought up, because that's an easy payday for him and what he believes to be an easy payday. It's going to be a bigger draw than a lot of other potential opponents at welterweight right now. So Usman, of course, is going to go for that. But it's just so frustrating when you give a guy like Diaz opportunity after opportunity against bigger name dudes and he falls short. And then, as you said, Drake, you praise him for what he almost did. Like, yeah, he had a good moments in the fight. Sure. He had a couple of good moments in the Masvidal fight too. It doesn't mean he won there. And I am all about Nate Diaz being active. I want to see him in exciting fights. I thought despite his loss against Leon, he did look good in some areas. And I think he still has potential to fight, especially at the lower top 10, top 15 of welterweight, or even outside of that, if you want to fight some bigger name guys that are on the back nine of their career. I could see a lot of potential for Nate Diaz here, but Diaz versus Usman is just the fight that makes zero sense. You don't do that right now. You know what a great fight is Diaz versus Chimaev. Go ahead and book that one right on through, because at least that's a bigger name, and why not? That would be hilarious to see. So I don't get the championship talk, and it's frustrating.
Imagine being Leon Edwards right now. Like, just imagine the angst, the fury and rage that must be building up inside that man. So not only are you on this ridiculous win streak that only the champion in the division tops, like active win streak, only person is doing that as a champ, right? Now the two people, the person who's about to get the title shot, got his jaw broke by the champ. And then the guy you just definitively beat the brakes off of him, aside from 1 minute out of a 25-minute contest, beat the brakes off him. Make no mistake about it. We could talk all the street fight stuff. Oh, he won the street fight. No, if that were a street fight, Nate Diaz would have died. He would have died somewhere between minute 1 and minute 24. So you beat this man silly for 24 minutes, yet now the talk is, because he had that flash of brilliance, the talk is that he might leapfrog you. Man, if I'm Leon Edwards, I am kicking down Dana's door, and somebody got to answer some questions, because this is absolute madness. If Leon Edwards gets passed up for, the Colby thing seems to be already established, and we know Colby is supposed to be getting this rematch, and they're hell-bent on that. Fine, whatever. But if Nate Diaz somehow inserts his way into the title picture off of a definitive loss to Leon Edwards, if I am Leon Edwards, I'm asking for my release, and I need to go fight somewhere else where things make a little bit more sense, because we are getting ridiculous at this point now.
Yeah, that's seriously. I mean, just the fact that it being entertained already, and I didn't see him say anything specific about it. I know he mentioned some stuff because Gilbert got not involved, but there were responses to Gilbert comments about that fights and everything. So just a whole lot of welterweight drama these days. But yeah, that would take the icing on the cake, I think, for probably most ridiculous title shot of all time. You mentioned Aldo getting his there at bantamweight, Pat. That one was very bad, but in this case, as I said, 1-3 in his last 4, only win over Pettis. It's just like such an unfathomable thing that is fathomable because of we know how things work. It's like, or can work. But and again, like as Ant was saying, if he was to leapfrog Edwards, you would have to also assume that by the time, let's say, the Colby fight plays out, the Colby rematch, Nate's probably not going to fight again. So he would have had, you know, some time in between things. Maybe even Leon would fight again, because that's how ridiculous things are. But I don't know, man. For Nate Diaz, for him to continue to compete, which it sounds like he wants to do it. I mean, he's talking to everybody. He wants to fight relatively soonish. Since he doesn't want to go back down to lightweight, and he's just not going to be, he's not an elite guy at welterweight. We've seen this. It's proven now. It's just facts. Despite almost getting the knockout. He's a guy who I think should be fighting similar to Nick Diaz suggestions, right? If he's to come back, I think a Matt Brown fight would be really fun. Somebody like Robbie Lawler, maybe, who not really sure what's going on with him. It's been quiet lately, but kind of guys who were once top 15 and maybe floating around the back of it like Robbie. Now he's not ranked anymore, right? But let's just have some straight up Nate Diaz fun. Obviously, he's going to talk shit to everybody, but let's make it make some sense, please. Please. Like, we've seen the show so many times now. I'm starting to see online at least a little bit. Even people are arguing more against the nonsense with, like, come on, dude. Like, Leon was whooping him for the 24 minutes. So I think people have gotten more realistic. As I was saying earlier, like, we all know how the fight goes. It would just be funny in terms of memeable life events if Nate Diaz fights Kamaru Usman at any time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, save a moment like Diaz had against Leon, and you know, which is always possible in any fight, right? That I don't think that we expected Leon to get rocked at that last minute and be in as much danger as he was. That could always happen, but save a moment like that. I'm in total agreement that I don't see anything that Diaz could throw at Usman to make that competitive, at least from what we've seen recently, right? If all of a sudden he gets a late career resurgence and does something crazy, sure.
Pat, the best Nate Diaz we've ever seen doesn't beat any version of Kamaru Usman. Okay. Okay.
Absolute truth.
So far, yes, that is correct. But I'm just saying, you never.
He's gonna get better.
You never.
Yeah. At 36
unlikely,
years old with
unlikely,
a mountain of brain damage. No, we've seen the finished product of Nate Diaz, and it's exciting. I love watching him fight. I love watching the man compete. I think he's one of the more compelling personalities, you know, underrated as far as intelligence is concerned and whatnot. This man has nothing for Kamaru Usman. It would take Jesus himself to strap on his gloves to even have the remote possibility of doing anything to Usman that would be considered threatening or damaging. It would be one of the one-sided slaughters in MMA history if this were to happen. So, yeah, just throw it in rice.
There you have it.
It frustrates me also. Like, clearly, everyone, you can see me and Ant's feelings on Nate and all this stuff, but like the moments, you look at these moments specifically in this Edwards fight where let's go before, in those first 24 minutes, he was a lot more, what do you want to say, showboaty, or being much more of a showman than you typically would, like sticking his ass out at him, you know, not putting his hands down, standing still. Like, he did a lot more theatrics than we typically see from Nate. Yes, we've seen that from Nick before. You look at the Anderson Silva fight, that's the prime example, even though that was only like the first minute and a half of that fight. People forget about that. But the lack of effort to actually win, which then comes down to that moment when he did rock Leon. He could have knocked him out. He didn't pursue it. You know, he landed the punch. He points at the man, lets him off the hook. Like, I'm clearly not an Nate Diaz fan, but that makes me upset that, dude, just go beat him. You'll win. Do you not want to win? And then you can make up the this narrative, I guess, which is weird because it would have worked out better if you did finish him. I just don't get Nate Diaz anymore. I don't get it, man.
Yeah, the thing that really frustrated me about that fight, maybe because we didn't get to do a fight companion and all that stuff. Maybe all this is, then we could just let it out. Really cathartic here at the Body Lock today. The whole 5th round Diaz, like he pours it on late. Not true. Like statistically not true. There is no real precedent for that. In fact, we've seen the exact opposite. Masvidal finishing him in the second half of their 5-rounder. Conor McGregor in the rematch having a second win and rallying to win that fight. Conor McGregor, a guy who's not known to have it down the stretch, was able to best Nate Diaz over the 25-minute period.
That's before that.
Yeah, exactly. So this is not true. And now there is just this little sliver that it might be true. And the Diaz diehards are going to cling to that, and they're going to shove it down our throats until he gets his undeserved title shot.
Yeah. With that in mind, let's know in the comments how you feel about Nate Diaz potentially fighting Kamaru Usman. Is that a fight that you want to see? I know some of you Diaz fans are out there. Let me know how you feel. I don't think Drake or Ant give a shit how you feel, but let me know how you feel. Let me know if you agree with what we're talking about here, where this is just ridiculous, or if you feel like Diaz should be at least fighting up around that level. And make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification, as Ant throws a bunch of stuff here. One thing is for certain: if Nate Diaz gets a title shot against Kamaru Usman, I can guarantee you we will be doing a reaction video here at the Body Lock that will be mostly what Ant is doing right now.
Yeah, we'll just take this clip.
Yeah, this clip. That should do it.